The views and opinions
and otherwise wisecrack remarks
in this podcast
are solely those
of our highly caffeinated hosts.
They do not represent the opinions
of Fairchild Air Force Base leadership,
the 92nd Public Affairs Office,
or the United States Air Force.
Any reference to commercial products, companies, or services does not imply federal endorsement.
You've been warned.
Boom, 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 boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. Come on, here comes the ready or not.
Welcome to the Boom. I'm Staff Sgt. DJ Ayres with my co-host,
Tech Sergeant Brian Bender, and we're back this week.
Unfortunately, we weren't here last week. Sometimes the mission calls and you can't do everything you need to do, and unfortunately the podcast had to be pushed back another week.
And in the future, obviously, with Sergeant Ayres and myself about to PCS out of here, out of sweet Fairchild. Not sure when the podcast will be back and kind of in the full swing of things once a broadcaster gets here. We may have an interim person fill in the meantime, but basically this week, next week, that's kind of it for security-wise that we know we'll definitely get podcasts out because then Staff Sergeant Ayres, you leave at the end of this month.
I leave at the beginning of March, and yeah, it's going to be here before I know it.
And then I leave in the middle of March, so between the two of us being the only broadcasters here, the podcast will be put on hiatus.
Hopefully, one of the members of the Public Affairs Office will step up in the meantime till we get another broadcaster in here to pick up the reins and keep this show running.
So we're back first week of February. Earlier this week, as you all I'm sure are well aware, it was Super Bowl 49.
Super Bowl.
Seattle Seahawks versus the New England Patriots. And if you're listening in the whole Spokane, Seattle, Upper Pacific Northwest area, some of you may not even gotten out of bed yet. You are that downtrodden from the result of the Super Bowl.
What I want to know is why would you not give it to the number one running back in the league to run it in towards a goal? My only thought process has to be that they were trying to catch the Patriots off guard. There's no way they could be, I don't want to say stupid because that's just mean, misguided enough to throw the ball. And I'm sure that offensive coordinator may not be here next year, but, who knows.
And for those of you, who watch the Super Bowl, like most years, really don't care about who's playing. You go for the food, the fun, and, of course, the commercials.
This year was kind of, I don't know, a downer.
Yeah, I felt very depressed watching some of these commercials.
I mean, did you catch the Nissan commercial with the race car driver?
Oh, yeah, with the Cat's Cradle song?
Yeah, Cat's in the Cradle. I mean, so this does not make me want to run out and buy a Nissan.
Or have children.
He's like, I love you, son, but I'm going to pull up in a Maxima. I would think he at least pulled up in that GTR he was driving. Be like, you know what, son? Sorry I wasn't there for you, but you get to drive the sports car or something like that.
Another set of commercials that was really depressing were the Nationwide commercials.
Oh, my God.
The one about the kid who wasn't able to go out and play with his bike helmet on and other safety issues, all because it showed an overflowing bathtub. I was just like...
Well, it was like, these are all the things I can't do because I'm dead.
Right.
Because somebody had an accident.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
I mean, I see the importance of it, watch out for your kids and make sure your kids are safe, and I get that, but I just think they missed the mark on that one.
And then again, you had your all standard commercials, your Budweiser commercials with the Clydesdale and the puppies, which, quite honestly, I hope they come back next year with something different because that is getting old. I think Snickers was ingenious with the Brady Bunch and Danny Trejo portraying Marsha. Steve Buscemi.
That was good. I like that one.
That was really good. But you may have caught a commercial that you just kind of cocked your head a little bit to the side and was just like, oh, what? What was I just watching? There weren't any puppies. There was no Kim Kardashian. There was no reunion of Katie and Bryant. It was basically a dark hangar and one sleek plane flashing after another. And then Northrop Grumman, airing what is believed to be the first Super Bowl commercial by a defense contractor, and showed a large sheet covering a plane that could have belonged to Batman. But here's the question. Why spend that much money to advertise a product it couldn't show?
Because I have $10 billion in my back pocket to buy a long-range bomber.
Well, from our understanding, they couldn't show it because if they did, they would have had to kill everyone who watched that commercial. Because apparently underneath that sheet was the next new top secret classified bomber that Northrop Grumman is hoping they get the contract for to build.
Well, here's the thing. Everyone's designing a bomber. So you got Lockheed and Boeing also designing bombers. This is not unusual. Typically, when the Air Force wants a new aircraft, whatever it might be, they push it out to the several different companies and say, who's going to make me the best and who's going to make it the cheapest or the most affordable to meet our needs, and check all those boxes.
Actually, it may have been almost ingenious idea of Northrop Grumman to pitch this commercial knowing 3/4 of Americans are probably watching the Super Bowl right now, including my congressmen and senators who are the ones that are voting on this, and we've just now got our attention and put our name out there. So if you were confused, don't worry, the message, according to Northrop Grumman, wasn't exactly aimed at us, the average American viewer.
Multiple companies design these aircraft, and you don't actually think about it, you just think about us as Air Force members, just think about the ones we actually see. I happened to be down in Riverside, California at March Air Force Base. I was visiting, and I got to see their museum. They had an A9. What this was a prototype when they were developing, the Air Force was developing the AX program to build a ground attack aircraft, which later on became the A-10 Thunderbolt II, which was made by Fairchild Republic. Northrop actually made the A9 as their prototype example of what they wanted to submit to the Air Force, and it looks a lot like Russia's. It's an Su-25. It's got a NATO code name of Frogfoot. It looks a lot like the A9 and it shares some of those aerodynamic principles. The A9 didn't have the Vulcan cannon in the front, and the engines were right under the wings as opposed to the rear of the aircraft. So it was a little bit different. They only made 2 of them, and one of them happened to be at March Air Force Base.
Obviously, spending big money on commercials just to put your name out there for a specific certain viewer to see it. Speaking of budgets, how'd you like that little transition work going from one budget to another?
Yeah.
I try really hard, people, I do. So anyway, speaking of budgets, this year the Air Force for fiscal year 2016 is planning to add 4,000 active duty airmen in fiscal year 2016. So active duty end strength would increase from the 312,000, roughly 313,000 in fiscal year 2015 to 317,000 next year. Now, I know some of you are scratching your heads going, wait a second, didn't we just do budget cuts and cut manning a couple last year, and now we're adding people? I don't work the numbers, people. I don't crunch the numbers, but I'm going to try and make sense for you what their plan is. Okay, so they're planning to increase the active duty personnel to provide 900 or more, so roughly 1,000 people to support the Air Force nuclear missile enterprise. Then they're going to add 400 active duty airmen in hopes of manning the MQ-9 Reaper drones, which the budget said would bolster intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance and command and control capabilities. And then another 200, this is a really good one considering everything we've heard the last few months with our cyber attacks and Twitter being hacked and everything else. They want to add 200 more active duty cyber operations and cyber warfare personnel. The remaining 1,900 of that 4,000 would support training programs and other efforts, to help the Air Force reshape its workforce to meet future missions and requirements. So there's definitely, I think what we're saying it almost sounds like there's not going to be guaranteed jobs anymore.
Well, it all comes down to the needs of the Air Force, and it's always sort of been that way. It used to be you could come in with a guaranteed job, but it seems more now it's like coming in open. You get to pick, these are 10 jobs that I would like to do, and, based on your ASVAB score and the needs of the Air Force, that dictates what job you actually get. I came in open general, and I was fortunate enough to become a videographer. I mean, I could have been any other job, and honestly, the jobs I put on my list at that time, a videographer wasn't even one of them. I mean, we had like dental assistant and Intel and a bunch of other jobs, and I was just, I was happy to be in the Air Force, but fortunate enough to become eventually a broadcaster.
So what's interesting is looking at some of these jobs. Think about the MQ-9 Reaper drone pilots and the 200 or so more cyber operation warfare. It seems like to me it's well fitted for this younger generation who are used to playing, Call of Duty, video games, and using video game controls and going in through computers and completing missions. So it definitely seems like even if that may not be your ideal job, believe it or not, you may be suited to do those jobs. So definitely go out there, talk to your recruiter, and get some more information. I think it would be kind of neat to fly, a UAV drone, just kind of sitting back, almost like playing a video game. Or, I hate to say it, I'm going to age myself here. Every time I think of cyber warfare, I think of the movie from the 90s, Hackers.
That's Angelina Jolie.
One of Angelina Jolie's first movies.
And Johnny Lee Miller. He's in, was it Elementary?
Yeah.
Yeah, good flick. Definitely changed our view on hackers, and it kind of bent the reality of what really happens.
Yeah, I don't think you can just sit there and bang away on the keys real quick and all of a sudden access Pentagon files. But then again, I'm no hacker and I don't know. So let's bring it local. We're talking about some of the Air Force news. What's been happening on Fairchild lately, Sergeant Ayres?
So the maintainers we have on Fairchild, I don't feel they get the recognition that they deserve. These are the backbone of the Air Force. They keep the jets in the air. They put in the long hours, and sometimes they get recognized for what they do, but it's definitely a selfless job. Except in this case I'm going to tell you about now. 6 airmen from the propulsion element at Fairchild Air Force Base typically, they work on the KC-135, but during an exercise, a Navy E-6 Mercury happened to come down and need maintenance, and this plane was grounded. And after their shift, these 6 airmen stepped up, and they answered the call and put in 12 hours of work and got this E-6 up and running and ready to go, so that the Navy didn't have to bring in people to fix this aircraft. And the Navy, in turn, the Navy and Marine Corps awarded these 6 airmen, with a capital A, with achievement medals. And the award recipients were Tech Sergeant Christopher Marks, Staff Sergeant Daniel Frazier, Senior Airman Garrett Jensen, Senior Airman Devin Tatman, Airman First Class Brandon Cochran, and Staff Sergeant Christopher Moore. And I was fortunate enough to actually be there when they got the award. I did a little news story, you can check it out on YouTube, about these airmen receiving the medals. And the wing commander, Colonel McDaniel, came down and awarded the medals to them. The 92nd AMXS commander, Lieutenant Colonel Dorn, requested the wing commander come down because, this is a really big deal.
So I think it's pretty interesting because, as Lieutenant Colonel Dorn was saying, that it's not usual for our sister services, especially the Marine and the Navy, even with their own branch, to just go up and hand out achievement medals. It really takes some working, and for the Navy to recognize the Air Force in what we do every day here at Fairchild, I think is an awesome high five all the way around.
So to those maintainers out there, people notice. It does happen. I know you may think it doesn't happen that often, but it does.
So again, congratulations to those guys who stepped up and went above and beyond. That's awesome news. So as we're closing out here, what's going on around Fairchild and Spokane? Well, tomorrow night, Saturday, February 7th, at the Red Morgan Center here in Fairchild, is Dance with Your Daughter night. You get to enjoy dancing, a fun photo booth with props, craft, and some food as well. Now, there isn't necessarily a dress code per se, but think about it. It's the month of February. It's around Valentine's Day, and you're taking your daughter out for a date and for some fun, so some semi-formal, formal dress is appropriate. And there was a registration period, but I know from having done this before myself with my own daughter that, they'll take you walking up at the door, and that's fine. So, again, it's going to be Saturday night from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Red Morgan Center. Also coming up next week, Monday the 9th and Tuesday the 10th at the Education Center, you can find out how to translate your military skills into a civilian career as part of the VA's Enhanced Transition Goals, Plans, and Success Program, or Transition GPS. Service members and spouses have the opportunity to attend this free 2-day career technical training course for those seeking how to use the skills they've learned in the military and put it on their resume to get a job in the civilian world once they retire or separate. So some quick activities happening here on base. Now, as far as what's happening out in Spokane, Sergeant Ayres, what did you find?
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. The Monster Jam comes to Spokane Arena. That's right, kids.
And kids at heart.
The largest, most famous monster truck tour featuring the biggest name in monster trucks is coming to Spokane. Actually, it's Saturday and Sunday.
Sunday, 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 and Saturday.
So the shows are actually Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 7:30, and matinee Saturday and Sunday starting at 2. It'll be in the Riverside neighborhood, downtown, of course. Tickets are ranging from cheap to a little more pricey, but depending on where you want to sit. You can call 1-800-325-SEAT or go to ticketswest.com to get tickets for that.
Also going on Saturday and Sunday, if Monster Jam is not your thing, and you may just be the kind of person who likes to sit in a boat, I'm on a boat. The 61st annual Only in a Boat show here at Spokane, sponsored by the Spokane Yacht Club. And it's going to be, again, Saturday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, 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 just like saying that, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. over at the Spokane County Fair and Expo Center in the Valley. If you want more information, it is SpokaneBoatShow.com.
So we like to give you options here on The Boom. There are some other options for you too. And this is something I had never heard about, and I didn't think we had here. I thought this was just an Alaskan thing, or, I guess one of the Dakotas. But the Priest Lake is having sled dog races.
Who let the dogs out?
That song is pretty old. Priest Lake, Idaho. It's going to be on Saturday at 9 a.m. at the Priest Lake Airstrip. And you'll have to pay for parking to go to this and check it out. And you'll get to see dog racing, which is something I'm sure a lot of people can't say they've actually watched in person. And if you want more information, you can go to iesda.org or you can give them a call, 509-863-7620.
Well, that about does it for this episode of The Boom. As always, it has been a pleasure to keep you up to date and informed on things happening in the Air Force and in Fairchild and in the community.
And we, look forward to hopefully being here next week. It's kind of hit and miss with all the stuff we got going on, trying to wrap up these additional duties and pass along to the other airmen that we're working with. And we try our very best to get here and do this show. And we hope you appreciate it because we love doing it.
And another reason why we love doing this show and we keep doing this show is I'm going to toot our own horn here. We just won in the AMC MAGCOM level Best Innovative Media Program for doing the podcast. That's right. Applause, people. You can applaud.
Yes, I applaud myself. I'm having such a good
you
time.
You love me. You really love me.
Innovation.
So, yeah, thanks to you, the listeners who are continuing to listen and who show us support through comments on YouTube or on our Facebook or even on emails, we continue to produce the Boom Podcast. And we enjoy it a lot, but we always look for your feedback. So don't be afraid to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and what you want to hear.
You know what? Keep it classy, Fairchild.
And as always, thanks for listening to
The Boom!